Welcome everyone to our regularly scheduled City Council meeting for Wednesday, January 17, 2024. We're going to start with call to order and noting that all members are present. And moving on to item number 2, public comment. Is there any member of the audience wishing to address the body at this time? Please fill out a request to speak form and hand it on into the city clerk.
There are none.
Okay. No one has come forward, so we'll close the public comment period and adjourn to closed session to consider one item that is listed on the agenda. Thank you.
Check, check. don't even know what you're talking about.
Welcome, everyone. Meeting for the City Council and Indio Water Authority. Today's Wednesday, January 17th, 2024. We will start with call to order and roll call, please.
Councilmember Ortiz,
Present.
Councilmember Furman,
Present.
Councilmember Holmes,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Miller, and Mayor Lupe Ramos Amit.
I am present. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no requests to speak under invocation, so we will move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. And I have the honor of presenting tonight's leader of the Pledge of Allegiance, Delaney Josephson, who is a fifth grader at Oliphant Elementary School. There she is, coming up to the mic. So Delaney is 11 years old. She attends Oliphant Elementary. Her favorite subject is math. She does additional after-school clubs, which include Student Council and Kindness Club. She loves to draw and play sports, such as Taekwondo. Oh, wow, that's a good sport. Jiu-Jitsu and football. Wow, good for you, Delaney. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Whenever you're ready, we're here for you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yay. Thank you, Delaney, for coming tonight and spending some time with us. We appreciate you spending this honorable moment where you were able to honor our flag with us. I hope you go back to school and tell your friends all about it, and maybe someone else from your school will come join us. Okay. You have a great evening, okay? You want to say anything? No? Okay.
You don't want to say go Owls?
Go Owls.
Go Owls, yay! Thank you. Thank you, good night. Wonderful. So we'll move on to item number 4, City Attorney Report on Closed Session.
Thank you, Mayor. On item 3.1, the City Council gave settlement direction by consensus.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, 5.1. We have a proclamation this evening for an individual that has unexpectedly left our organization after being with us for a very long time. It seems like since he was a child. But we'd like to ask Scott Trujillo to please come up to the dais, and my council members, if you would join us. We all worked with Scott. All right, let's see what wonderful things we get to say about you. Or is this a roast? It's a roast, okay. We're going to roast Mr. Trujillo. So it is my pleasure on behalf of the City of Indio, Indio City Council, and the community, the residents, everyone who you have served for many years, to present to you this proclamation. This is in recognition of Scott Trujillo. Whereas Scott Trujillo will be leaving the city after nearly 18 years of service. 18 years of service to the citizens and community of the city of Indio. He has accepted a position as Assistant City Manager with the City of Calabasas, California. Whereas Scott began his service with the City of Indio in June 2006 as the Human Services Supervisor. And whereas in the subsequent years, Scott served with the city as the Senior Neighborhood Coordinator, Management Analyst, Water Conservation Coordinator, Communications and Outreach Coordinator, Assistant to the City Manager, and finally, as Deputy City Manager. Whereas during his tenure, Scott also served as the project manager for the Public Safety Campus, now near completion. And whereas Scott was also actively involved in many organizations within the community, including having served twice as the president of the Indio Sunrise Rotary Club, and whereas Scott has provided tireless support for the city's efforts to improve the lives of city residents through his service at the city. And whereas the City Council desires to formally thank Scott for his many contributions and years of service. And whereas Scott Trujillo has been an important member of the City of Indio staff and volunteer in the community and will be greatly missed. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Lupe Ramos Amit, Mayor of the City of Indio, along with the members of the Indio City Council, do hereby extend sincere appreciation to Scott Trujillo for his dedicated years of service, hard work to the City of Indio, and we wish him continued success in his career. Witness thereof, I have unto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Indio to be affixed this 17th day of January 2024. Mr. Trujillo. I mean, yeah, this kind of tells your story. You know, you were in this department, you were in that department. Now, people, it wasn't because the departments kicked him out. No, it was because Mr. Trujillo was so dedicated to learning every aspect of this city, not just city government, this city. That's how dedicated an employee he was. And that's why he will be greatly missed, because not only was he a great service to us, but he is taking with him a lot of institutional knowledge that was very valuable to helping us get to this point where we are today. Look at us, look outside. Would you believe we would be where we are today when you got here? No, it's crazy. And you were a part of that, and we want to thank you.
Well, Scott, I've always said you'd be a city manager one day, and you're on your way. When I first met you, young kid at the teen center and that, doing all the things you do, and you're going to be sorely missed, but I'm so proud of you and so excited to see your journey and looking forward to when you're that city manager. I'll be sitting there in the audience wishing you on. So congratulations, and thank you for an amazing run with our city, but you have many, many more years to contribute.
Well, Scott, I have known you. Gosh, I came out here in 2004 and I met you in 2006, something around one of the businesses that I owned. And I was just taken aback by how you just captured the essence of the city. You were so passionate, you were so involved. And as you went and grew from department to department, you just jumped in with both feet, figured it out, learned it, and really brought something to the table. What a tremendous asset you've been to the city. However, what a great opportunity this is. Yes, you'll be missed immensely, but I really wish you the best of luck.
That's yours.
Yeah, you
get that. You know what? Everything was kind of said, but I want to tell you, Scott, you know what? You're such a great person. You've been a great team member to the city of Indio. You will always be Team Indio. We're growing, and a big part of that is because of you growing. So you're always going to be Team Indio, and I'm like a brother, but I'm extremely proud of your accomplishments and what you've been able to do and where you're going now. And if you ever need a sidekick in Calabasas to hang out with, I love Calabasas. I got my hotel I stay at over there. Please call me. But congratulations, brother. We appreciate you.
All right, Scott. Well, I just want to say thank you for all of the help that you've given all of our staff and all of our city members and businesses, and just all the great work that you've done here, all the great projects that you have going now. And just want to let you know that all the work that you've done is going to leave a long-lasting impact here in the city of Indio for many years and many generations. So thank you so much for all the work that you've put into our community. Thank you, Scott.
Serving this city has been an absolute honor and a privilege. I didn't think I was going to get emotional, honestly. I first want to thank the City Council for your guys' unwavering support over all these years. Could not have done this without you guys, with the five of you up here, so thank you. Thank you for the phone call the other day. That meant a lot. I appreciate that. And I want to thank the community, because without your trust and collaboration, The reality is you're the driving force behind all of our shared accomplishments. That's the reality. Thank my colleagues. Working alongside you guys has been fulfilling, inspiring. I learned a great deal from all of you. And moving into this next chapter, I'll take all those lessons learned and all these great memories and be a better me, right? And so I just want to thank everybody for this incredible journey that it's been. And I will miss all of you, but I know our paths will cross again soon. So thank you, and God bless you.
You're not getting rid of us. There's always Vega City.
There's always Calabasas.
I've never been in the chambers without a suit and tie, so I'm off to my son's wrestling matches, so I apologize for my attire.
Oh, no. Thank you, Scott. Thank you.
You got my number if you need.
Thank you for allowing us a few minutes to honor someone who's given so much to our community. At this time, we'd like to move on to our Youth Advisory Council. Would you like to give a report this evening?
Sorry. I'm Destiny Nunez, and unfortunately we've been inactive, but we have great things coming in the future.
Very good. We look forward to them. City Manager reports and information.
Just a thank you to those that were able to come out for our groundbreaking ceremony with the library and City Hall just an hour or so back, and to let folks know that there will be an open house ribbon cutting event for the library within about a year and City Hall in about 2 years. That's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. That was an exciting event. Thank you to everyone who put it on. And we had a great turnout. So yes, we look forward to the ribbon cutting. Item number 8, report on City Council external internal boards, commissions, and committee meetings, and report on meetings attended per Government Code Section 53-232.3D. Councilmember Holmes, would you like to lead us this evening?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mayor. Well, it was nice to get back in the swing of things after the first of the year and get back to some of the meetings. So briefly attended the Coachella Valley Conservation Commission meeting. That's always interesting. It's just a different part of my world. The most important part of that particular meeting is the presentation on the biological monitoring program. We probably spent 15 and 20 minutes learning how all the ecosystem works and how it's monitored and how it affects what we do in a day-to-day environment that we live in and building and so on and so forth. So that was a very short and sweet meeting, and that was really the crux of that meeting. Also attended, along with Councilmember Miller, the East Valley Reclamation Authority meeting. We changed out. President Scott Sear is now the president, and I have the honor of being the vice president for that great organization. Really what we discussed was the update on the plan program. That's really out in the 2045 range, but of course Ray Trejo from IWA, our general manager, is part of that meeting, and as we discussed what it looks like going forward to have recycled water. It may appear a little expensive at the beginning, but as things change, I think things will evolve. We had a meeting with College of the Desert, the city manager, Councilmember Ortiz, and myself, along with President Laura Hope and a couple of staff members, to discuss the status with what's going on at College of the Desert, how it's being built. Bless you. And set me off course there just a little bit there. Anyways, what's going on at College of the Desert and how things have changed. Enrollment's changed. You know, when we built the first College of the Desert, it was 8,000 students immediately. Everybody went to class. Everybody was there. It was just a huge number of people in our community, in our downtown area. And the assumption when we were building, COD was building the second campus, is that the same would happen, but patterns have changed, and many folks are going to school and taking online courses, and so that whole shift is changing how we look at education, how College of the Desert looks at education. One of the things we discussed was parking, fighting hard for a parking structure. To start out with, we'll have a paved parking lot for our kids, for our students, to be able to utilize, and then when it's not being utilized, we'll have that parking area to be able to use on the weekends and nights with all the activity going into downtown in general in terms of the new restaurants and the new foods and whatnot. So hopefully there will be a tremendous synergy. Childhood Development Center is having its grand opening on the 23rd. That's very exciting. I remember talking about that with some of my partners in crime here and how excited we were. So we're very excited to have that open. A couple of other things. Attended the Martin Luther King event, or celebration, I should say, at the First AME Church, along with the Chief and Assistant Chief Tully, Ben Gutron, City Manager Montgomery, Jessica. There were several people. That is always really quite a wonderful event to attend. First AME Church is always one of my favorites. Attended the second Saturday concert. For those of you that haven't been there, now I'm still not seeing that area full, so you have to come. It's a lot of fun. You can stop and grab something at the food trucks. We have a new restaurant downtown, and you can listen to some great music. It's just a beautiful venue. Yes, it's a little chilly, but so what? It's really a lot of fun, and I encourage everyone to come out and take a look and check things out. I also encourage everyone to attend the farmers market on Saturday, grab some fruit. There's cookies, there's different things at the farmers market. It's really a beautiful day and a nice way to start your Saturday morning. I'm going to switch gears here just a little bit and reference the last council meeting. At that last council meeting, we unanimously passed 2 resolutions, and those 2 resolutions were meant to reflect inclusivity. They were meant to reflect non-discrimination, no discrimination at any level. That is how the city of Indio looks at its community, its residents, and its businesses. However, we heard a lot of conversation at that last meeting, and I think with those 2 resolutions, our intent was really to unite, not divide. We certainly never intended to offend. And we heard the concerns that were being voiced. Councilmember Miller and I and City Manager met with some a couple of Palestinian teams, and had some long, hard conversations with them. Again, the city of Indio is all about inclusivity. It's all about embracing our culture. The diversity of this community is what makes it stand out. So to my colleagues here, I know there have been some discussions and some things thrown out there, but to my colleagues, I would like to ask that we propose an amended resolution, not a new one, but one that unites our city. It addresses some of the concerns that were voiced, that allows us really then to return to the business of in our city. I think the most important part of this, especially now that we've spoken to so many people, is really to put forth a resolution, what Indio is all about. Again, a resolution that really unites our city and doesn't divide. So I'm going to throw that out to my colleagues and say, is that something we can consider at this point?
Yes, that sounds good to me. Yeah, I'm definitely okay with that. I'm not sure if anybody else wants to say anything.
No, I don't have anything to say. I think this is the same question that was posed last meeting that didn't have consensus. So if it has consensus tonight, then it'll be on the agenda.
So I see that consensus, and we'll work with those that want to propose the amendments.
Fine, that's good. Yeah, Wayman said he's okay with it.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that ends my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Holmes. Councilmember Furman.
All right, good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. I did have a CVEC meeting where we discussed RFP that's going to be out for long-term governance for our city in respects to energy with IID, and Coachella Valley Association of Governments will be part of that, working with them to get that out. Also, we talked about some of the improvements to our Avenue 42 substation, and also our Dr. Carrion substation. Those are big in our community. So it's actually exciting news to see those coming along and moving along. I thank you for the theme music. And and also I did attend a few of the Martin Luther King Day events. I was able to keynote a Southern California Black Chamber of Commerce Palm Springs chapter breakfast with Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalaskis, and also I attended a event at La Quinta High School that was put on by Palm Springs Black History Committee here at La Quinta High School, and then I attended the First Baptist Church here in Indio 100th anniversary, which was great, and congratulations to Pastor Dixon and his wife. And also I attended the Martin Luther King celebration at First Baptist Church in Desert Hot Springs. And I also attended the second Saturday event, which was great, a lot of fun. Looking forward to next month. And as you know, that the lineup for our next Coachella Valley Music Festival and Arts Festival just came out. And so very exciting stuff, but I also like to throw in our second Saturday events, and also the discussion of Coachella coming along. We always have free concerts down here. We also have the farmers market. We have some new restaurants opening. We also had the ribbon cutting for Victoria's Cafe that we all attended. So a lot of good stuff happening, and along with the groundbreaking in the library. So as they say in the construction world, and there's a lot of dirt turning here in the city. So congratulations to the community. Very exciting stuff. And that will conclude my report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Furman. Councilmember Ortiz.
Thank you, Mayor. Earlier this month, I attended the Coachella Valley Association of Governments Energy and Sustainability meeting. The main topic we discussed was the recent increase in days with bad air quality. We're seeing that impact on our air, and some experts are saying it could be one of the side effects of Hurricane Hillary, which brought down more clay and silt from the mountains and spread it throughout the valley. Those particles are much smaller than our other soils, so they're breaking up and affecting our PM10 levels throughout the area. So we're looking at what we can do at the regional level to plan for soil stabilization and increasing communication on health measures to account for the increase in bad air quality. I also attended the Southern California Association of Governments Regional Council. We had a few presentations regarding clean transportation. The first presentation was from Southern California Edison, and they explained the efforts that will be needed to adjust for the added needs for electrification in the next few decades. The pace for electrification will need to increase. Build out of clean generation will need to increase. They're expecting electricity demand to increase by 82% with all of the new regulations that are coming in. And that generation is expected to come mostly from solar, but also onshore wind, offshore wind, and increased battery storage throughout the state. For affordability, they believe this will cost about $370 billion in capital investments, but there will be a decrease in cost in prices for the customers because of the expenditure on fossil fuels. Will have a net benefit for affordability there. Our second presentation was from San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. They have their zero emission multiple unit passenger rail. So they have 3 zero emission trains that are operating on their current metro tracks, and they operate on hydrogen, which gives them a longer range than electric trains. The third presentation was from Arches, which will be building out the hydrogen hub in California. They're focusing on industry, higher education, labor, and community efforts. And they're planning on generating with solar, wind, hydropower, and geothermal power. The production sites coincide with low-income, disadvantaged, and heavily polluted communities, and they're expected to be $3 billion in health savings in healthcare due to these new investments. and we're also expecting 200,000 new clean green jobs created through these efforts. I also recently attended the grand opening for Victoria's Cafe. Want to congratulate them on their second business here in the city. They're open from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. in downtown Indio, so please come check them out. And today I also attended the groundbreaking for our City Hall and Library. I want to thank all of our staff and partners who are working on this to bring these new facilities for our residents to be able to use and enjoy here in our community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ortiz. Mayor Pro Tem Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As Councilmember Holmes said, we had EVERA meeting, which is our East Valley Reclamation Authority. Not only did we talk about switching positions, we have a joint venture with the Valley Sanitation District, but we also talked about long-term future, what we're going to look at in recyclable water here in the city of Indio and, excuse me, the Coachella Valley. Did attend a few events. I want to say congratulations to the Indio Rotary Club, or the Rotary Club of Indio, on their 75th anniversary. They had a gathering at the Coachella Valley History Museum. If you haven't been there, it's a little gym. Have an opportunity to be a part of a service club, please look at Rotary and some of the other ones out here through the Coachella Valley, because all these nonprofits, volunteers, and people that want to be engaged in their community, and it's a great opportunity to move forward. And the Rotary Club, under the guidance of President Ben Gutron, has put all the stops to make sure that they're supporting our community. So hats off to them. The First Baptist Church, as a lot of us have attended, Pastor Dixon from First Baptist Church, he's been there 24 years. The church is actually older than the city of Indio. It's 100 years old. The city of Indio is 94. So it was actually built before the city of Indio even became incorporated. So what a great opportunity it was, not only to honor Martin Luther King, but also honor our local. Attended the Martin Luther King, the 38th annual event that comes out of the Palm Springs city. It started in Palm Springs for many years, and then now they've moved it to individual cities. It was at the city of La Quinta this time, at La Quinta High School. Great to see all the individuals that were out there representing not only the local cities, but also our elected leaders from Congress and the state. So my hat's off to all of them. And then, if you haven't noticed all the construction going on here around City Hall, we have new restaurants opening, Victoria's Cafe, right next to Miles Avenue, right in the heart of the city, where you see all the construction going on. Lots of new restaurants and event center, like our outdoor amphitheater, will be opening very shortly. So you're going to see a resurgence here in downtown Indio, and you'd like to be a part of it. And then two last things. We had our dog show. If you haven't done the dog show here or gone to it, attend. Over 7,000 animals that were grand champions were at the Empire Polo Club last weekend. This weekend it was lacrosse. We had over 5,000 players come and play here in the city of Indio. And these are the things different from the concerts. Coming up is our Southwest Arts Festival. Coming up at the end of the month, so if you want to see some beautiful art, over 200 exhibits of different kinds of art from artists, from sculptures and paintings, will be on display and for sale. And then also after that is Major League Soccer. The first part of January, all the Major League Soccer teams will be out here playing soccer at the Empire Polo Club, and exhibition matches for not only for themselves, but also to raise funds for nonprofit organizations throughout not only the Coachella Valley, but through California and abroad. And then lastly, I think Councilmember Holmes brought it up about our last meeting. This is something we need to move forward on. We need to make sure that everybody understands that we're here, we're inclusive of everyone, and that we need to move forward and get on to the business of the city. So that's it, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The only committee that I attended was as the alternate for the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy. They rotated officers, so the new chairman or president of that organization is Miss Rita Lamb, mayor of the city of Cathedral City. And in addition, the executive director, Jim Carpia, announced his retirement. So there will be a probably a national recruitment put out to find the new executive director for that organization. Well, at that event, I was sitting next to our supervisor who mentioned that the county of Riverside received a grant to promote throughout Riverside County a arts and culture event. So they asked if I would share that information with the city. I'm not sure if we have time to get the Arts Commission involved. I will send City Manager what little information they were able to provide me, but they are trying to promote it, publicize it, so that people within our community, Riverside County, or from afar, come to Riverside County and they have some sort of directory that can direct them to the various arts and cultural exhibits here throughout Riverside County, including such things as our IPAC, the museum, and any other art pieces that we have throughout the city. So I'm hoping that there's enough time for our Arts Commission to become involved with that, coordinate with Riverside County. I'm not sure that they'll trickle down some money for us, but there is money for publicity. In addition to that, while I was attending the Coachella Valley Mountains Conservancy, they did promote their new maps for all of the trails that are located in the Coachella Valley. There are 3 different maps available for those of you that are avid trailers. And the reason they're still old-fashioned maps, well, guess what happens when you go out in the middle of nowhere? There's no GPS. So they couldn't create an app, but you know, there's still the old-fashioned map. If you want to see some of the beautiful parts of our Coachella Valley, these maps are available at various government offices. There should be some being delivered to the City of Indio, and they'll be available at libraries and such. And finally, just one last reminder to our Youth Advisory Council, spread the word. It's scholarship season. It's all over social media. The 2 that were sent to me just this week alone were the Carreon Foundation and the Riverside County Fair. There's money out there for you and for your future. So make sure your eyes are open and that you are applying for these scholarships. You are excellent candidates for these scholarships, but I'm sure you know other students at your schools that could benefit from these scholarships. That would complete my report, and I'm not sure, does the Youth Advisory Council want to leave now, or do you want to stay a little bit longer?
Madam Mayor.
Okay, wonderful.
Madam
Thank
Mayor,
you for being
I have one other thing, though.
Yes.
I would be remiss if I didn't share this. We did also have a resource fair for our unsheltered folks at the Miles Park that I attended as well. But it was a great event, and I just want to thank Chief Washburn and Sergeant Plata and the unsheltered unit for putting that on. It was very successful, and a lot of folks showed up, and all of our partners who were there to provide these resources for our unsheltered people. So I wanted to mention that. And also our community grants is still going. So I think the 31st is the last day to turn them in for this cycle, folks. So community grants, please go on our website, indio.org, and apply for those. It's kind of an easy application process, but the funding's there. That's it, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Wayman Furman, and good night. Youth Advisory Council, we'll see you next meeting. Moving on to item 9, consent calendar. Does anyone want to pull an item for staff report or questions?
No, I'll make a motion if no
No,
one.
we do have some.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We have one member who would like to speak on one item, but does
Okay.
anyone want to pull any? No? Okay, so let's go ahead and hear from the member of the audience before we make a motion. We have a request to speak from Mr. Frank Ruiz on item 9.5.
Hi, everyone, Mayor Hamid, members of the council. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And on behalf of more than 20 different community-based organizations and national organizations, more than 1,400 Eastern Coachella residents that have supported this initiative, 13 Native American nations, several municipalities, and countless local businesses. I want to thank you all for considering passing a resolution to support the Chihuahua National Monument. This monument will provide some of the graded opportunities, such as economic opportunities for the Eastern Coachella Valley, provide and enhance recreation opportunities for the local community members, such as hiking, stargazing, camping, even off-roading, provide a corridor for the migratory birds and the wildlife that are facing constraints and challenges due to the climate change, provide protection for places of cultural and religious significance for the Indian nations in the region, allow the state of California to meet its 30 by 30 goal of protecting 30% of the lands and 30% of the waters by 2030. And of course, enhance the renewable energy companies to continue expanding as part of the Desert Renewable Energy Plan. On behalf of all the for considering this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Reese. We'll now entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept the consent calendar, items 9.1 through 9.12 as presented.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Miller and a second by Councilmember Ortiz. Please indicate your vote electronically. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Moving on. Item number 10, public hearings. 10.1, tonight is the Mr. Snyder Show. Resolution number 10415, request for conditional use permit and planning review permit land use entitlement approvals for the Indio gas station urban plaza on Assessor's parcel map number 611-373-041 located east and south of the intersection of Indio Boulevard, Requa Avenue, and Flower Street pursuant to the provisions of the Highway 111 Corridor Specific Plan. Mr. Snyder.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. You had a long break. We thought, why not start it off with 9 public hearings on your first meeting back in 2024. So apologies in advance, and I will try to be concise with my comments and presentations. But this evening, the item before you, as the mayor noted, is a project pertaining to a proposed convenience market and gas station. It is being considered under the auspices of the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan. As you may remember, the City Council adopted this plan in September of 2022, and as part of that adoption, you reserved to yourselves the right for final decision-making on certain types of projects. These included car washes, these included drive-through restaurants, and they also included convenience markets and gas stations. So that's why it's here before you. Normally, projects like this would stop at Planning Commission because you've delegated that authority to the Planning Commission in the past. But for these type of projects along the Highway 11 corridor project area, you have reserved that to yourselves. So with that, just some quick information. Again, this project, as the mayor indicated, is at the confluence of Requa Avenue, Flower Street, and Indio Boulevard. The applicants have put together a plan for approximately 3,000 square foot convenience market with a fuel island canopy component. There will be 6 gas fueling stations and 2 electrical vehicle charging stations. So a total of 8 dispensers, of which 2 are electrical vehicle charging. The project is being considered again under the auspices of the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan. The general plan designation is mixed-use neighborhood, and the zoning under the specific plan is mixed-use corridor. So to kind of give you a visual representation of this property, it's the irregularly shaped parcel up there with the blue dot. And it's in an area that has a variety of different land uses, including storage, office, retail, and light manufacturing.
Kevin, can I ask you a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Why is it part of the Highway 111 thing if it's off of Indio Boulevard?
It's a great question. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So when we put the plan together, the plan extends along the spine of the Highway 11 corridor and a quarter of a mile on either side. So it's actually captured by that quarter mile.
Got it.
It's at the very edge of it. So that's a great question. I'm glad you clarified that.
Thank you.
If it went any further, we wouldn't be talking.
Yes, thank you.
So good question. Here's some visual representation of the property. It's currently vacant. As I indicated, it's an irregularly shaped parcel, relatively small size, and has not been considered for development until now. So this is the applicant's proposal. The convenience market is situated along Flower Street, Requa, and Indio Boulevard. The fuel island canopy is situated along Indio Boulevard. The applicant has been working to design to the extent that they can in consideration and compliance with the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan. That's why you're seeing these buildings pushed close up to the street. In the past, you might have seen the buildings pushed back to the very edges, for example, up against the storage facility to the south. But with the new Corridor Specific Plan, we are trying to bring buildings closer to the street for increased pedestrian connectivity, so that's why you're seeing that. It's the landscape plan. It's a relatively small site, but they are following the city's dictates of having a desert-appropriate landscape design. This is somewhat of a unique design that you're going to see in a few minutes. The convenience market has kind of and you're going to see in a minute, kind of a design flair to it that you'll see in the roof line, as does the canopy, fuel island canopy roof structure. It actually has perforations, which you're seeing on the diagram here, to let light in, which is different than many canopies you see when you pull under a lot of canopies. It's dark and lit with lights, but this is a little bit different. So here are some elevations that show you the design. They show you the color schemes. You're dealing with primary colors of red, white, and black primarily. And here are some renderings of what the project will look like. As you can see, there's been architectural flair put into the project to make it a little bit more architecturally interesting. Been heavy use of glazing, and also an intent to use color, glazing, and architectural relief to give the building a little bit more character than you might see in many instances for these type of facilities. So we analyzed the project, and I will say outright, this is one of the earlier projects under the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan, and I think the applicant will attest that we all went through a learning phase together. There were multiple iterations of designs. We took this initially to the Planning Commission in July of 2023, and it only got its final hearing with the Planning Commission in December of 2023. And that's because the applicant, we went back and forth multiple times on the design, and they worked with us to get as close as possible to the overall intent of the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan. What we found is that generally it complies, or it can be made to comply with the application of conditions of approval. So in tonight's resolution, you do see that there are proposed conditions of approval for council consideration if you choose to adopt them that would help the project achieve compliance with the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan. So key considerations for council: the applicant has the burden of proof. That's a fairly standard expectation, and we believe that they have worked hard to demonstrate that. And again, they either outright comply or can be made to comply with conditions of approval. It is a limited land use, as I described, so that means that you are the decision-making body, while your planning commission is your reviewing body and recommending body. In addition to the existing design standards that might apply to everyone, there's another layer of design standards that you as council approve that require further consideration on the design front, which they have worked to comply with. And then finally, while it doesn't fully comply with the Highway 11 Corridor Plan as presented, there are conditions of approval that will help it achieve that compliance. So your Planning Commission reviewed this in a public hearing format on December 13th, 2023, and they voted in a 4-0 motion to recommend approval to you. So with that, we are recommending that you adopt Resolution 10415, granting conditional approval for a conditional use permit, which is the use authorization, and the planning review permit, which is the design authorization. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I would note that the applicant is in attendance and may be available to answer any questions that the council might have. Thank you.
Do we have questions of staff, or do we like to hear from the applicant first? Mr. Snyder, are they on Zoom or are they here?
They are actually right here, I think actually behind me, so I will ask them to come up.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're fine. Good evening, council members. My name is Hayward Pardue, PBLA Engineering. We're land planners and civil engineers in the project. I think, as usual, Mr. Snyder did an excellent job presenting the project. We're looking forward to being a part of the downtown area, and I can certainly answer any questions you guys have.
Mr. Perdue, are you the engineer or the applicant?
I'm the engineer, not the owner, but,
right.
And the land planner. But
not the applicant.
The applicant is here.
Right, okay. Do we have any questions of Mr. Perdue? No? Okay. Beautiful building. Thank you for working with staff. I'm impressed. Yeah. Thank you, staff. I'm impressed.
Yeah, it was a learning process.
I don't think you've ever heard me say I'm impressed. Where are you, Mr. Snyder?
Behind him.
Oh.
I heard it.
It's on tape, yeah. No, beautiful project, beautiful design. The only question I have, and Mr. Snyder, you can stand up, and Mr. Perdue, you can stay there because
Great.
you're an engineer. My only concern is that we didn't really take a look at the intersection and the traffic impacts. I didn't see a traffic study and possible signalization of that intersection based on the increased traffic. But I'm keeping in consideration, Mr. Perdue, that there is already a signal light on the east and west, not too far. So I don't know if there's enough distance to have another signal light, but I wanted to know, was a traffic study conducted?
So, Mayor, this was analyzed by our Public Works Department, specifically our city engineer and our consulting traffic engineer, and actually Mark Greenwood, our consulting traffic engineer, is in attendance. They can speak more to the traffic considerations. I can tell you that there was not a warrants analysis that was justified for a traffic signal. There are stopped intersections within that area, but if you would like Mr. Greenwood to come up and give you more information, happy to invite him up at this time.
I think that the main question I'm asking is, what's the existing distance between the two other signal lights? Because I know it's a short span.
Correct. So I'm going to ask Mark. Yes.
Yeah, back to the site plan.
Yeah, I don't.
The other, it's at Indio Boulevard and 111. There's a signal,
Correct.
And then the other one is over
At Avenue 48, I believe, is the closest to the east, Avenue 48, which is approximately, I'm going to say, a quarter of a
where
mile.
the other gas station is.
Correct. Yeah, yes.
So it's a quarter mile to that one
It's
from this
a
project?
quarter to half a mile. I would have to measure it to be absolutely certain.
No, we're guesstimating.
Right.
And then about another quarter mile to the 111 one?
Roughly, yes.
Yeah, so it's too short of a span for an intersection,
For
signalization.
Yes.
But what traffic mitigation measures can we take? I really want to thank the chief for what he did at Indian Palms behind Jackson. I'm sure he had on that. But what can we do? Rather than to leave it the way it is. I mean, you're the engineer, Mr. Perdue.
I think the traffic is fully channelized by medians along with full stops at a three-way sort of awkward intersection. I think traffic is, not speeding through there anyway. There's right in, right out. We're not crossing lanes, so I think it's probably as good as it's going to get right now.
Okay. So India Boulevard, I think, is my main concern, not the three-way traffic stop sign.
So yeah, as Mr. Perdue noted, there is an existing median. This project will not be allowed to punch through that median. It will be a right in, right out only. So vehicles coming to the site will have to turn right into the site. If they're on Indio Boulevard, they will have to turn right out of the site. There will not be a left turn movement. They will be able to make a left turn movement onto Flower Street, either to go south to Highway 111 or to go north to the intersection of Requa and Flower, where they can also get out to Indio Boulevard. But again, in that instance, they're also going to be turning to the right.
Yeah, I know it's going to be tight. Okay, well, we'll just.
One quick question.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Kevin, on the design, it has a future possible convenience store or the drive-in. Is that something that's going to be an issue?
So that's a good question. So there is a part of the property that could be available for some type of development. The applicant has not determined what kind of user would be allowed, and in that instance, if it is a use that falls into that limited land use designation, then this council would be considering that. We would obviously take another look at traffic considerations based on the type of use and what the traffic that might generate. But for today, based on this particular use, our Public Works Department analyzed it and determined that they felt that it was adequate and met safety standards and circulation standards that the city applies.
Fine. And then one other quick question, if I could. Will they be coming back for a necessity convenience? Does that fall into the
public convenience or necessity?
So we will have to probably do that also?
Potentially. So what happens is that when they apply for their alcohol license through the state of California, the state of California will determine if there's an undue concentration of liquor establishments in the area. If there are, and it's based on census tract and the number of establishments that serve liquor within there, if there's an undue concentration, then they do require that the legislative body, i.e. council, take action to approve that, to allow it in excess of what is normally allowed. So perhaps we will work with them through that, and if there is that determination, they will come back before you for that
Imagine
consideration.
there's not too many places in Indio right now that aren't falling into that census tract.
It's getting harder.
So they're
Yes.
going to have to come back and they understand that that is a whole separate process.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Snyder, the parking that's on parcel 2, is that going to be for this project or for the future project?
So the parking that's shown there is for this project.
And will there be land available for parking for the future project?
Again, it depends on what they ultimately decide. There may be shared parking opportunity depending on the nature of the use, or they may have to add additional parking. We will work with them when they propose that new use, which they don't know what that will be right now, and determine if they have adequate parking. Again, we do encourage, and our plans encourage shared parking situations, so we would hope that there'd be opportunity to share that parking.
And how are they going to treat the pads that aren't going to be developed right now? Just PM10 them with the green stuff?
Yes, they will be required. They will be required to maintain them in an appropriate condition. Once they disturb it, they own it, so to speak. So they will be required to. And I would assume the applicant would want to make sure that doesn't turn into a weed patch or other problem area that would detract from the overall aesthetic character of their development.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. If there's no further questions, Mr. Perdue, I really am excited about this project.
Thank you.
I hope you are too.
Yes, for sure.
Good, good. That's what we want to hear. Okay, if there's no further questions, I have no request to speak, but I will open the public hearing. If any members would like to turn in a request to speak form to our city clerk, we'd be happy to hear from them at this time. There's nobody stepping forward, but for the record, we did receive some emails that have been entered into the record as public record. So I will close the public hearing and entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 10415. That's all it says. And granting conditional approval for the conditional use permit planning review permit for Indio Gas Station Urban Plaza.
Motion?
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Miller, a second by Councilmember Holmes. Please indicate your vote electronically. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Perdue. Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Moving on to the next Mr. Snyder show, 10.2, resolution number 10416, request for conditional use permit and planning review permit land use entitlement approvals for Starbucks drive-through project on Assessor's parcel number 611-230-1020 and 021, located north 11, east of Oasis Street and west of Town Street, pursuant to the provisions of the Highway 111 corridor specific plan. Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. I must note that the resolution recommendations are purposely short. We stopped vying for the James Joyce Award for the number of characters that we could put in there for you to read. So they are short, but they cover the intent of your action. So this evening, we have another project along Highway 11 corridor. This is actually very close to us where we are this evening. This is a piece of property that you're probably familiar with, and again, we're here before you on this property because it's a limited land use. So the applicant is seeking approval for an approximately 1,300 square foot drive-through and walk-up window Starbucks. This is on property that is adjacent to the existing Del Taco as a landmark for the council, and also across from the Larson Criminal Justice Center. And this piece of property has an interesting kind of past, if you will. It's that blue dot, and if you look back in time, it was a gas station at one point. It did several tours of duties as a used car lot, and then more recently it was vacant. And then very recently, the existing building on the property was demolished, and that was in September of 2023. That was done in anticipation of this development. The owner took a risk in demolishing the building with the hope that, number one, they would be able to get a jump start on doing the development if they got approval, and also to improve the visual aesthetic of the corridor, and also reduce the code enforcement challenges that they were having with that property. So again, here's the picture. That's what it looked like with that building on it. Again, that building is no longer there. So this is the project. So as I mentioned, it's a 1,300 square foot Starbucks drive-through. They have worked very hard to design it in conformance with the Highway 11 corridor specific plan. Where you might have seen in the past buildings set back at the back edge of the property, this building's right up on Highway 111. The drive-through is to the rear of that building. There is a direct pedestrian connection from the Highway 11 sidewalks, as well as direct pedestrian connections from the on-site parking lot. There is also a second component of this that's associated with, that's in the upper right-hand corner of that picture, and that's an additional parking area primarily for employees. They needed additional, they will be running multiple shifts, and they needed to have enough parking for their employees as well as for their customers. So this is on two separate parcels of land, but they are the same project. So once again, we have a project that's working to develop and design in accordance with our landscape provisions. This is a desert-friendly landscape. We have been getting the word out, so to speak, about the city's expectation for desert-friendly and appropriate landscaping, so they have designed in accordance with that. Here are some project building elevations, and you'll see some renderings in just a minute. But what this project tried to do was to combine glazing or windows along with interesting architectural features that break up the massing of the building to avoid the boxiness that you might see in a building of this size and scale, and to add architectural variety at different components, whether through use of different materials or introduction of actual art pieces in components of the building. So here are some renderings. The rendering on the left is if you were driving down Highway 111 looking at the building. The rendering on the right is if you were walking or in the parking lot looking at the building on the drive-through area. As you can see, it's a relatively small building, but they've really tried to design the building in such a way that is pedestrian-focused and pedestrian-friendly. Here is the project materials board. You can see they're using a variety of colors. They're in that desert hue, but also trying to make sure that the color scheme wasn't too monotonous, which is what you see when you look at the renderings. Again, different materials, different colors to avoid any sort of monotony in aesthetics. So we did our staff analysis. In short order, we found it compliant with the general plan. We found that it was generally compliant with the Highway 11 corridor specific plan. There are some conditions of approval, particularly focused around pedestrian connectivity that we emphasized, and we put those in conditions of approval. Those conditions of approval are represented in the resolution that's before you this evening. Again, they have the burden of proof. Again, this is a limited land use, which is why it's before you this evening. There were additional design standards that we worked with them on. We've been working with them on this project for about 7 months and gone through several iterations of design, and want to extend, much like the previous applicant, our appreciation as staff that they worked with us as we implemented these new set of regulations that the council adopted. And while again, it doesn't demonstrate full compliance, it can be compliant with the applications of conditions of approval. Your Planning Commission reviewed this on December 13th of 2023 and recommended that you approve it on a 4-0 motion. And with that, staff is recommending that you approve Resolution 10416, granting conditional approval for the conditional use permit and planning review permits for this project. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We have representatives for the applicant in physical attendance and representatives for Starbucks in virtual attendance if you have any questions for either party. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Do we have any questions of Mr. Snyder?
Just a quick question. Could you refresh my memory why we're putting the buildings next to the road instead of further back? I mean, the last two that I can think of, and I don't mean, Starbucks is a little bit different because it's a major corporation, but the other Starbucks we have that we put on the corner of Monroe and Highway 111, because it's to the back of it, all the people inside conjugate against it. And then the other one I'm thinking of is over off of Gulf Center Parkway, where we did it the opposite way across from the AMPM and across Fantasy Springs, where we put all the buildings up against the road and you couldn't see what's inside of it, so nobody wanted to go in, and that's where a lot of people congregated. Is there a reason, refresh my memory, why we switched it so that the building would actually be up against the street?
Sure, that's a good question. So as the council and your commission have gone through various updates of rules and regulations over the last few years, there have been particular things that you've been focusing on that have been drawn from the general plan. You as a council, along with the community and the planning commission, when you adopted the new general plan in 2019, you really wanted a more pedestrian-oriented community. You were concerned, at least at that time, about it being too auto-oriented, too auto-dominated. Well, there are several ways you can get there. One is to bring buildings closer to the street to reinforce the pedestrian connection, whether they're right up on the street or they're set back a little bit. The other is to make elements of a site are to the side or rear of that site. So as we drew inspiration from the general plan vision, we brought those into both the Highway 11 Corridor Specific Plan and also the Unified Development Code that you also adopted in September of 2022. So this is the idea of breaking, if you will, of old land use patterns, land use design, and really looking to bring buildings and relationship between buildings and the street closer together so that individuals don't have to literally cross a football field, if you will, to get to the building. They can access it. In some instances, it's not always work that way. Not every site is perfect for that. In some instances, the project on Monroe, that's a regularly shaped parcel. It's basically a triangle, and it would be very difficult to pull that up on the street and still meet the circulation requirements of the drive-through function. So we have to kind of apply some common sense throughout that. But you as council gave that direction ultimately through the adoption of the plans that I referenced.
Yeah, I remember that part of it, but my only concern is to make not little havens there, because people will walk up. That one is a walking destination because you got the courthouse and everything else there by it. So it is more of a walking destination. But as you see some of the other ones, it leads to people being able not to see what's in it. So if you're not familiar with the city, you won't do it. Starbucks is a big name, so it's different. But like the one on Gall Center is a prime example. Or on the other one, unfortunately, on Monroe Street, that's where a lot of the transients and homeless individuals hang out around that area, because it's out of sight, kind of out of the thing. And it's kind of come into an area where it's not as available, where people don't want to congregate there, that are going to drink coffee or have a donut. They all basically grab their stuff and go. So I just want to make sure we're not doing something that's going to be counterproductive. You know, on some of the open areas, like we did the last one there off of, let's say, Indio Boulevard, where we did the Circle K, there's lots of open areas in. There's a road on the backside. There's entrances in multiple areas, so it's open. It's inviting, where people can kind of drive by and see what's in there. And oh yeah, I'll go in and grab something. So I just want to make sure. But you said common sense, and I trust staff to be able to do the right thing. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't going to come up with all these areas that were going to be blocked off. And if it isn't a Starbucks, it's something else where somebody doesn't know. Are they going to really shop there, go there, or feel safe going around the back? I don't want to have any illusions that, like I said, this is one of the safest cities in the United States, and especially in the Coachella Valley. So
it is a great point, and we as staff will work to continue to make sure that as much as possible we can introduce that interactivity I think you're talking about, Mayor Pro Tem, to make sure that there aren't areas. We do work with our police department to make sure that we're not creating problems in the future, either through code enforcement or criminal activity. But we'll continue to look at that and continue to apply commonsensically the standards that you've adopted, because it's not one size fits all, and you know that as best as anyone else, that every site has its own unique characteristics.
yeah, and I know Councilmember Holmes is just excited about another coffee shop. He's our coffee one, so can't go wrong with Starbucks.
Yes, but we love our local coffee
Yes,
shops.
we do.
But this is Everbloom and the place on the corner there, Encore Coffee. This is really wonderful. I've been waiting for something on that corner, something meaningful to come on that corner for a long, long time. I've been around since Cowboys Automobiles was there, and then it wasn't. So I think this is just a great use of this particular corner and this particular parcel, and it's going to feed well from the courthouse. I know at the courthouse there's usually a little cart there and lines that are hugely long. So I'm happy to see this on that particular corner.
Thank you. Mr. Snyder mentioned, this is a long conversation I've been pulling us toward considering, which is, do we want to be a vehicular-centric city, or do we want to encourage more pedestrian-friendly opportunities? And certainly this is the perfect corner for it because of the 3,000 people across the street. And they're not going to have the same issues that the Del Taco has, which I still don't understand. Why people cross from the courthouse to Del Taco instead of going to the crosswalk. But
human nature.
It's not against the law anymore?
No.
Oh wow.
Nope, no jaywalking.
We can't pass an ordinance, city attorney?
Do you want me to address that question?
Yeah, really.
So long as a person crossing the street is crossing at a 90-degree angle, and they do not put themselves or others in danger by crossing, cities are prohibited from criminalizing jaywalking.
Okay. All right. Any other questions of Mr. Snyder or the applicant?
I have a couple questions. Thank you, Mr. Snyder, for the work, and also the applicant. Of course, we've all been waiting for years to get something on this corner. I just want to talk about the traffic, because can you speak on the entrance and exit of the area? And also, I'm saying a 12-car stack, it's 12 vehicles. So just to confirm, there's no outside seating?
So at this
Or
point,
inside-
the
in-
applicant is not planning on outside seating, although there is area to add it in the future if they do change. In terms of traffic circulation, you will see that there's no access into the property from Highway 111. There is access in and out of Oasis Street. One of the conditions of approval is the applicant will have to put a raised curb median in Oasis Street to prohibit left turn movements. So they will be entering and exiting the property from Oasis Street when they access the property for their retail purposes. So that will be something that the applicant will be required to do to make sure that we don't create unsafe turning movements. If anyone's been around there at 7:45 or 8 o'clock in the morning, there's a lot of vehicles turning onto Oasis Street looking for parking to access the Justice Center. So we want to minimize any potential impacts for vehicle conflicts or collisions by having that limitation or basically getting rid of that opportunity to turn left.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about 3,000 people across the street. Is 12 cars suitable for that area?
So our Public Works Department, our city engineer, our consulting traffic engineer did analyze it and did find that it met the city standards for on-site queuing. So they did look at that overall design, as well as the limitation to right in, right out does help with traffic movements and circulation, as well as traffic safety.
So limitation of just walk up and drive through, correct?
Well, I think the point was made earlier. There will be a potential for a lot of walk-up traffic from the jury pool as well as the employees at the facilities across the street. Speaking as one of those jury pool people in the past and probably in the near future, I'll be happy to walk across the street to get a cup of coffee. So I think we'll see a lot of pedestrian movement. Obviously, it's going to have a drive-through component. I don't think anyone doesn't believe that isn't going to be busy, but I think there's going to be a balance, and I know that our Public Works Department looked at that very closely. That's why that raised curb was put in there, to limit that left turn movement, to minimize conflict, and also to minimize the potential for negative impacts to traffic circulation.
So, I mean, my concern is with the pedestrian traffic. I mean, after they get their coffee, where are they going? Are they going back across the street? Are they going to hang out there? Is there potential for outdoor seating out there since there's no indoor? I mean, maybe the applicant could speak to that, or?
Yes, we encourage the applicant to consider outdoor seating, and I believe that they can best answer. I don't think that they're opposed to it, but I think that they would like to see how it goes before they commit to providing that. It's not something that the Highway 11 corridor specific plan requires. It's encouraged, but not required. So you may want to ask them in terms of their long-term plans, but it is something that we talked about, and they do have adequate area to add it at a future date if they felt it was in the best interest of the company.
Thank you.
Mr. Snyder, before we invite the applicant, I didn't ask on the last project that you presented, but on this project, I want to make sure there's no walls proposed to create barriers, or are there going to be walls between, for example, this one and the one north and around the parking lot?
So there is an existing wall on the northern property line that exists today. They are not going to be removing that. There is a wall section along the alley that is existing. That will likely remain, but it's a lower pony wall. It's approximately 3.5 feet tall. So that will likely remain just to ensure that vehicles utilizing the alley, whether they're going through the alley or exiting the Del Taco, don't inadvertently drive onto this property.
And how about the parking lot?
So the parking lot will not have any walls. The only other wall section that they would have is they will have a trash enclosure that will have a block wall component.
Yeah. So the trash enclosure is kind of catty corner from the other trash.
It is. It was cited with input from Burtech in terms of operational efficiency.
Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Snyder? And do we want to hear from the applicant, or are we good to open?
I'd like to hear from the applicant. Yeah.
Okay, so we would like to hear from the applicant. I'm not sure if the person in the audience would like to answer questions, or? Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Council, Madam Mayor. My name is Jim Bickle from Bickle Group Architects, representing the developers Brian Way and Matthew Arfa. Thank you for having. I brought a color board just because we're very proud of the rich colors and textures. we've worked very hard on this project and kind of consider it a little jewel box, and kind of like to show it off. Matthew and Brian and I worked with Kevin. It's literally been years since our first meeting on this, and it's a very challenging site. It's a very small site. There's additional dedication that we've had to account for. We've courted quite a few tenants, and quite honestly feel it thankfully turned out a win-win at the end to not only get Starbucks, which is obviously a great brand, but also in a configuration and a building size. Is a very, very small building, one of the few tenants that we feel would really work well there. We did everything we can working with Starbucks and city engineering to minimize traffic impact. We've squeezed every inch we can out of that drive-through and kind of put in that reverse drive-through, which did two things. It actually maximized the queue, but it also made it hidden from Highway 111, which I know the city was took very seriously. What else was I going to mention? Anyway, I won't belabor things. You have a long night ahead of you. I'm here for any specific questions you might have.
Mr. Furman, Councilmember Furman?
Yeah. The question I had was, Kevin mentioned earlier, you guys went through different versions of this project, right? And we talked about outdoor and indoor seating, which there's none on this. What are the possibilities of that being in the future as some outdoor seating?
My understanding from Starbucks team directly, we're the shell architect and the site architect, but my understanding, and they are here virtually if you want to drill down on this some more, but my understanding is they wanted to leave a small plaza, quote unquote, area that potentially could turn into outdoor seating, but they really wanted to test this site, give it some time to mature and develop and see how the users actually used it. There is an extreme sensitivity to not encouraging the unsheltered to hold up there in the evenings. So as the redevelopment of the area and downtown occurs, and if it seems appropriate that they can increase their business and create an amenity to their customers in the city, my understanding is they would be open to that, but they just don't want to come out of the gate with it.
All right, I have no further questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
This is a public hearing, right? We will open the public hearing and see if any members of the audience would like to speak on this item. Seeing no one step forward, we will close the public hearing. I will notice that we did receive some emails, or at least one email on this item, and it has been entered into the record as part of the document. If there be no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll approve resolution number 10416, granting conditional approval for the conditional use permit planning review permit for Starbucks.
I will second that.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Miller, a second by Councilmember Holmes. Please indicate your vote electronically. Motion passes 4-1. Thank you and congratulations to the applicant. Our next item, item 10.3, resolution number 10422, has an amendment. Mr. Snyder, do you want to address that before I?
So at this time, Mayor, I'm going to give you a break from me and invite Principal Planner Kendra Reef up to provide a staff presentation. She will also discuss the memo that you're referring to.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
yeah, I want to make the record clear before I call the item so she can do it then.
Okay.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Ramos-Amith. Just to address the memo that you received, there's a clerical error, and we did not include the second APN, Assessor's Parcel Number, for the project. So both Assessor Parcel Numbers that should be included in The resolution are APN 610-330-027 and APN 610-330-031.
Okay, so the agenda is correct. It's just the staff report that,
It was just the resolution.
Oh,
It
the
didn't include
resolution.
that second one.
Okay.
Yeah, so there
All
was
right.
reference made in the staff report and the agenda. It just wasn't included in the resolution.
okay. So we're going to now hear Resolution 10422, request for approval of tentative parcel map 38417 for the subdivision of 14 acre parcels of land located southeast of Monroe Street and Buena Vista Avenue, Showcase Parkway, into 13 separate parcels of land. Please proceed.
There's also a couple more edits to the resolutions that were made after it was published. So 2 conditions of approval that were to be removed from the resolution that was published. The Planning Commission voted at the January 10th Planning Commission meeting to remove them. I'm sorry, the December 13th Planning Commission meeting to remove them. They were inserted into the updated resolution in error. And then Public Works staff identified 3 conditions of approval to be modified. Those fall within the issuance of the certificate of occupancy portion of the resolution. And there's just some small verbiage changes to them. So the existing conditions of approval read as follows: the applicant shall construct full off-site street improvements. The modification was made to read the applicant shall construct full on-site street improvements. The fifth one, second change, 5th item on the issuance of certificate of occupancy reads that improvements shall include construction of curb, gutter, sidewalk, street lights, storm drain system, catch basin, storm pipe, drain pipe, and fully landscaped and irrigated parkways. The edit states the improvement shall include but not be limited to construction of curb, gutter, asphalt, concrete pavement, and then the rest is the same. And condition 6, edit 3 in the issuance of certificate of occupancy reads the current condition reads all off-site street improvements, including energizing of streetlights and installation of irrigation and landscaping along Monroe Street, shall be constructed and accepted by the city prior to the issuance of a temporary or permanent certificate of occupancy. The new condition will read all on-site improvements, including energizing of streetlights and installation of irrigation and landscaping, shall be constructed and accepted by the city prior to the issuance of a temporary or permanent certificate of occupancy.
And the applicant's been made aware of these revisions?
Correct.
They're in agreement?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. The application is for tentative parcel map 38417, located at the Palms at Indio. The applicant is I-10 Monroe LLC. The project is located east of Monroe Street and south of Buena Vista Avenue. The nearest major cross streets are Avenue 42 and Monroe Street. The parcels included in the parcel subdivision are 610-330-027 and 610-330-031. The current general plan designation for that area is regional commercial, and the current zoning designation for the property is Pacific Indio Development Agreement. For reference, this is the project location. The proposed parcel map will be creating 13 from the existing 2 parcels. The project is compliant with the City of Indio General Plan and the Pacific Indio Development Agreement. The project is compliant with the Subdivision Map Act. With the application of relevant conditions of approval, the project can be approved. Conditions of approval are binding and must be adhered to. The Planning Commission recommended approval on December 13th with a motion vote of 4-0. Staff recommendation, approve resolution 10422, granting conditional approval for tentative parcel map 38417. I'm available for any questions that you may have, and the applicant is also available online to answer any questions as well.
Do we have any questions of staff? No? The only question I have, because I'm noticing consistent 4 zeros, were all these voted on in the same night?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They were all voted on December 13th.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one person was absent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have no questions of staff. Would the developer or the applicant like to present or speak, or do they just want to be on standby?
I believe they do have a request to speak.
Okay.
So I will turn that over to them.
Thank you.
Mr. Rothbard, if you can unmute.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, good evening, City Council. My pleasure to be before you again. I think we've been working on this project for 10 years. We thank you for the opportunity to Zoom with you tonight. We've reviewed the staff report and concur with the staff's report and conditions of approval. We have one comment. It's really concerning condition A number 30, which was a condition from a time long before we had a IID design and is no longer appropriate. And we'd like to see if there could be a minor modification to that condition. It reads currently, public utility easements over all private public roads and an additional 10-foot width on both sides of the private drive. And interesting enough, I spoke to IID earlier today about that. That 10 feet on either side is supposed to read 5 feet on either side. I'd be happy with changing it to read, or at least say, an easement as mutually agreed to between IID and ourselves. But the way it reads now, it reads like a 10-foot easement on either side of a road, which in our instance would be a 50-foot easement. So we'd appreciate if you'd consider removing the condition, but if you don't want to remove it, at least modify it to say that the easement would be as mutually agreed.
Staff, are we prepared to respond?
So the city's staff standard practice is when applicants make requests for changes in approval, we reach out to the commenting entity, and in this instance, we did not receive any comments from IID. However, as Mr. Rothbard indicated, these conditions were provided a while back. There have been several efforts around extending utilities, electrical utility service to that area. Staff has no objection to the modification that Mr. Rothbard proposed or the elimination if that's what council wants to do. So from staff's perspective, his requests, either request is reasonable.
Go ahead, Mr.
Oh, no, yeah, I'm okay with the mutually agreed to part of it.
And how do we get that an impact? So if we were to go forward, would he report back to you that it's been mutually agreed for in writing so that we'd know? If not, would it revert back to what it was prior?
I believe the most appropriate approach is mutually agreed to as evidenced by a written instrument.
And if not, would it revert back to the original design?
If not, then it would have to go back to the original design. Yes, you're correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if I can propose language to that effect.
Okay, can we finish the questions while you fine tune it?
Will do.
Do we have any other questions? Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Rothbard? Thank you, Mr. Rothbard, for being with us this evening. Always a pleasure to hear from you. City Attorney, you can go ahead and propose language.
Oh man, that wasn't much time.
Did we open the public hearing?
Okay. I'll open the public hearing while you do that.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so this is a public hearing item. We will open the public hearing. I do not have any requests to speak. Are there any members of the audience who wish to address the body on this item? Seeing no one step forward, I slowly close the public hearing.
I'm ready, Mayor.
Okay.
So I recommend leaving condition of approval 30's language as is, but adding an additional sentence following the existing. So it currently says public utility easements over all private and public roads, an additional 10 feet in width on both sides of the private and public roads shall be dedicated to IID for the construction, operation, and maintenance of its electrical infrastructure. And then I recommend adding such additional 10 feet of width may be reduced by mutual consent of the applicant and IID, evidence in writing to the City of Indio. So the default is what the condition says. If they get it in writing that it's less, they can send that in writing to Community Development Department, and the condition will automatically be reduced.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. I will entertain a motion.
All motion to approve as amended.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Council Member Ortiz, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Miller. Please indicate your vote electronically. Motion passes unanimously. Congratulations, Mr. Rothbard.
Thank you so much. See you next time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Item 10.4, Resolution 10-419, text amendments to Chapter 3 of the City of Indio General Plan and a General Plan Map Amendment for the application of a suburban neighborhood low land use designation for a territory of land identified as Southeastern Sphere 1, comprised of approximately 36 acres located at the southeast corner of Avenue 50 and Jackson Street. Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of City Council. This item and also item 10.6 are related. So in the interest of time, I'm going to talk once on both items so that you have the opportunity to hear just one presentation instead of two, which is basically going to be the same thing.
Okay, so you want me to open 10.5?
If in the interest of time, if what I was suggesting is that items 10.4 and 10.6 are interrelated. One is a resolution, one is an ordinance.
Correct.
If the council would like to consolidate them and hear just one presentation, then take action, that is certainly the council's prerogative. I'm trying to be mindful that it's already been a long evening, so if you want to hear one presentation, I'm happy to do it.
That would be wonderful. So we'll combine agenda item 10.4 and 10.6, the resolution 10-419, ordinance number 1805. Mr. Snyder.
Great. Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. So this evening, we're asking you to consider taking action that are required as precursors to making a formal application to a body that you're familiar with, but for the benefit of the public, it's called Riverside Local Agency Formation Commission. Say that 10 times fast. Or what's often referred to as Riverside LAFCO. So the City of Indio has identified that this area that was referred to by the mayor, the approximately 36 acres at the southeast corner of Jackson Street and Avenue 50, is an area that the city is interested in including within its sphere of influence. Now, the sphere of influence, for the benefit of the public, is a fancy way of saying land that could be potentially annexed into a city someday. And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about annexation. We're not talking about this area immediately becoming part of the city. We're talking about making a request to Riverside LAFCO for them to consider designating this area with a sphere of influence designation for the City of Indio. And then if at some point down the road there was interest in annexing and the property owners were interested and the city were interested, that's a whole separate process, and that's not what's happening tonight. So again, we are going through a legislative process. Has reviewed this and they have made a recommendation, which I'll touch on in a few minutes, and then you as council are the final decision maker. It's what is often referred to in the nomenclature of the Riverside LAFCO a change in organization. So right now this area is included within the sphere of influence of the city of Coachella. For a variety of reasons, we think it's more appropriately should be included in the sphere of influence for the city of Indio. As the mayor noted, we are asking for council action on several items. One is text amendments to the existing general plan that would support this action of inclusion. Two is what we call a map amendment. That's a map amendment to the general plan land use map. And that would designate the property with what is called suburban neighborhood low. That's one of the general plan designations that the council has adopted. It is a lower density designation. It's really intended to look at single family residential development in the range of 0 to 4 acres, 4 units per acre, excuse me. And since we are combining the presentations, the companion action to this is ordinance number 1805, which would seek to pre-zone, which is a term that Riverside LAFCO uses, and we call it a zoning map amendment, to establish the intended zoning designation for this area, which would be suburban neighborhood 4. Now we're doing this because Riverside LAFCO's process requires that local governments within Riverside County identify in their general plan and in their zoning what the intended density and intensity and uses of property will be that will be included within spheres and ultimately that may be annexed. So that's why you're going through this exercise this evening. The commission, the Riverside LAFCO Commission, the body, if you ultimately decide to go forward with this, take the necessary action, they are going to consider our request along with any other requests. And I'll touch on that in a minute, a little bit in more detail. So the area we're talking about is outlined in red. Again, it's at the southeast corner of Avenue 50 and Jackson Street. On the other three corners is the city of Indio. We exist in an annexed municipal limits fashion on three corners. This area is currently utilized primarily for single-family residential purposes. However, there is, if you're familiar with the area, there is a church at the immediate corner of Avenue 50 in Jackson, and it again is located within the current sphere of influence of the city of Coachella. However, we believe that for a variety of reasons, it is more appropriate in our city. So the general plan amendment, as I mentioned earlier, would be to designate this area with suburban neighborhood low. The zoning map amendment or pre-zoning would be to designate it with suburban neighborhood 4, which again is 0 to 4 dwelling units per acre. And we looked at this from a variety of angles and determined, and I'm summarizing what's in the staff report, but there are a variety of reasons why we believe it's more appropriate to be included within the city of Indio's sphere of influence. For example, there are public safety services, our new public safety campus and our existing public safety campus approximately 2 miles north of this area. There is an existing 18-inch water service line within Jackson Street that is owned and operated by the city of Indio. In fact, some of the properties within this area actually receive water service from the Indio Water Authority, and they were connected as a result of issues with well water. So we are already serving some of the residents in this area. We own and operate the Avenue 50 and the Jackson Street public street systems abutting this area. And as you go through the list, you can see that there's a variety of other reasons. We believe that it is natural and appropriate and would be harmonious to see contiguous land use patterns occur within this 36 acres. And we also believe that the zoning and the general plan designation that this council have adopted would help to ensure that that would be the case. So as we went through this, we did several things. One, we engaged with the community. Two, we did a full CEQA analysis on this. And we actually brought on the services of a firm that you're familiar with, DUDEC. DUDEC's considered one of the preeminent CEQA consulting firms in the state of California. They reviewed this and they ultimately worked with us to prepare what's called an addendum. An addendum is a method of analyzing environmental impacts of actions that do not require the full EIR process that this council is familiar with. So what was prepared was an addendum to the environmental impact report that was previously done for the general plan. And we believe that that was the appropriate way to do it. Having done this for 30 plus years as a career, I think that this was a reasonable, commonsensical way to analyze environmental impacts. If you look at the area, it is a de minimis amount of area that we are looking to include within the sphere. And I think that it would be reasonable to say that an addendum was the appropriate vehicle for environmental analysis. So that's what we did. So we went through that process. We made that determination. It is included in your packet this evening. It's about a 100-page document, so we didn't skimp on the environmental analysis. We did a thorough environmental analysis to ensure that all due consideration was given to any potential environmental impacts, and we found that there really weren't any significant impacts through this inclusion within the sphere. Now, if we ever go down the road of annexation, if this ultimately came into the city sphere, we'll have to do this exercise all over again, and we'll look at it again at that time in terms of potential environmental impacts. But for this moment in time, we did the addendum. So your planning commission reviewed this. They held a public hearing, and they did that on, excuse me, I have the wrong date. I said the 17th, but it was January 10th. And they approved a motion recommending that you approve this sphere of influence changes, the general plan amendment, the text amendments, and the pre-zoning for the Southeastern Sphere 1. And that is the recommendation to you. So this evening, council is being asked to consider taking actions to approve Resolution 10419, which again would be to make the text and map amendments to the general plan for the Southeastern Sphere 1, and then also to approve ordinance number 1805, which would establish Southeastern Sphere 1. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if the council has them. Obviously, this is a public hearing, so you may hear from members of the public as well, and happy to respond to any questions you might have from that. Thank you.
Mr. Snyder, what's the current zoning under the sphere of influence that Coachella has?
So actually, when it's in the sphere of influence, it is still unincorporated Riverside County. Coachella went through their own process of establishing zoning for that property. It's comparable to, it's that lower density zoning that they envisioned. That's actually similar to the area of Coachella that's adjacent to this property that is within the city limits. So it's within that lower density range of development. I apologize, I don't remember all their designations off the top of my head, but it is similar. But today, even though it's in Coachella's sphere, it is actually regulated by Riverside County. So any permits, approvals have to go through Riverside County.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of Mr. Snyder? No. Glenn, your mic's on.
I know you're not from Coachella, but you mentioned they went through this process already. What process did they go through? Is this the same process that they went through as well?
Right, so they have to go through a similar process when this area was included within their sphere. They had to go through the same process that we're talking about tonight. They had to go through that general plan and that pre-zoning. They had to go to Riverside LAFCO, and the Riverside LAFCO Commission had to take action on it, which they did, which is why today it's included within Coachella's sphere. Again, for the reasons I stated earlier, we believe it's more appropriately should be included in Indio's sphere of influence. What we are talking about, well, it's unusual. It has been done. And there's actually some recent applications in front of the Riverside LAFCO Commission where other cities in Riverside County have pursued the same action.
Okay, and just to reiterate, I think you mentioned it, when you refer to sphere of influence, it doesn't mean that it belongs to them. It just means that probability that they could be annexed into that.
Correct, Councilmember. So it is an area that could be annexed into that city, or any city, whatever has a sphere of influence designation. But that is simply a label on that area. In order to become part of a city, they have to go through any party that wants to annex area, any city or county that wants to do any sort of annexation or special district has to go through a formal process of requesting that. They have to work with the property owners. Ultimately, they have to go to Riverside LAFCO, and they have to seek the approval of Riverside LAFCO. The local agency formation commissions were basically set up as a oversight body to ensure that local governments were doing the right thing. And it was a reaction to when they weren't always doing the right thing. So that's what these are statewide bodies. We have them in every county throughout the state of California.
And we're currently serving water in that area?
We have several residents along Avenue 50 that are currently receiving water from the Indio Water Authority. And again, we do have that water service line, the major water service line in Jackson Street that could serve this, the remaining properties as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Snyder? None. We will open the public comment period. I have a request to speak on both item 10.4 and 10.6 by Miss Amy Hoyt. If you'd come to the podium, please.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Amy Hoyt. I'm an attorney with Best Best & Krieger, and we are counsel for the city of Coachella. Early this afternoon, I submitted a detailed comment letter objecting to the city of Indio's proposed expansion of its sphere of influence and related general plan and zoning amendments. The city of Coachella opposes the project, particularly the city of Indio's attempt to take Sphere 1, which is currently in Coachella's sphere of influence. Coachella's comment letter identifies 4 fatal flaws that preclude the city of Indio from approving this project. The first has to do with legally inadequate notice. Government Code Section 65856 requires the city of Indio to give notice of this hearing tonight after the Planning Commission hearing. It also requires the city of Indio to include the Planning Commission recommendation in the notice. The city here gave notice before the Planning Commission meeting. That was January 10th. The notice was given in December. Also, because the Planning Commission hadn't happened yet, of course, the recommendation of the Planning Commission was not included in the notice. The second problem is that the city failed to comply with Public Utilities Code Section 2167.6, Subdivision B. That requires the city to refer this project to the Riverside County Airport Land Use Commission before taking action on the project. That didn't happen here. The third issue is that the project is inconsistent with numerous fundamental, clear, and mandatory provisions of the City of Indio's general plan. The comment letter identifies the specific policies which are in the land use element and the infrastructure and public utilities element with which this project conflicts. And fourth, the addendum that the city prepared does not comply with the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA as it's shorthanded. The addendum is not allowed here because the underlying environmental impact report that is being tiered from is a program environmental impact report. And there is clear authority under CEQA that says that where the underlying EIR, program EIR, does not contemplate, analyze, or consider the project that is being considered, you cannot use an addendum. That is the situation here, so it's improper to use an addendum. And we cite the case law in our comment letter. In addition, an EIR is required here, environmental impact report, because there is substantial evidence that the project will have new and more significant, more severe significant environmental impacts than were identified in the general plan program EIR that is being tiered from. And for example, the addendum itself discloses that there will be significant impacts on agriculture that weren't considered. That means an EIR is required. The addendum also does not have any substantive analysis of the actual impacts of this project, deferring all those impacts to further down the line, but CEQA requires them to be analyzed now. There's also no substantial evidence to support.
Ms. Hoyt, your time is up. We do have your letter, so thank you very much. It has been entered into the record. I do have two more requests to speak. Dr. Gabriel Martin.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. City Manager. Thank you for the time today, and thank you for the wonderful public service you provide to the amazing people of the City of Indio. My name is Gabriel Martin. I'm the City Manager for the City of Indio, City of Coachella. I come before you.
Welcome.
I come before you to oppose items 10.4 through 10.9 and humbly request that you deny the Planning Commission's and staff's recommendation on these items for the following reasons. As our city attorney indicated, that the City of Indio did not prepare the adequate environmental documents under the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA. Furthermore, we also confirmed with local tribes that they weren't consolidated during this process, and they're in violation of Senate Bill 18, since the City of Indio's 2040 General Plan EIR Cultural Resources section does not evaluate the proposed Sphere 1 and Sphere 2. Also during LAFCO's municipal review process, MSR, what happened in 2022, which happens every 10 years, where is the opportunity for cities and other agencies to make requests to LAFCO to reduce or increase their sphere of influence. During that time, Indio did not request any of those actions. They submitted a letter on April 26th and a comment letter, and during that time it did not make a recommendation to annex proposed Sphere 1 out of the City of Coachella's sphere of influence and put it into their sphere of influence. During that time, LAFCO approved the current sphere of influence, which is right now in the City of Coachella. To do so, would the City of Indio's action would serve to disfranchise the City of Coachella and act to reduce our current influence, which we have planned for in our general plan, in our wastewater and sewer master plans as well. From a historic background, the City of Indio's Water Authority withdrew providing water to the people of Mesquite Water Mutual Association. So the City of Coachella's Water Authority stepped in and started providing temporary services and pursuing permanent solutions. We've done that with securing a $1.5 million state grant from the State Water Resource Board. The Mesquite Water Consolidation Project will provide water services to people in Sphere 1, 17 residents, and provide 3 fire hydrants for fire protective services. All those residents have signed a right of entry agreement, utility service request with the City of Coachella, and that project goes out to bid March of this year. Once again, thank you for the time, and we'd like to express our opposition of items 10.4 through 10.9, and we hope you vote to deny the staff's recommendation and Planning Commission's request. Thank you for your time and consideration, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Your resume will be kept on file. Ms. Irma Fernandez.
Hi, good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Irma Fernandez, and I live in this area in Coachella and Mesquite. We got invited to come today, and a lot of we are a small community, and a lot of that live in my community are elderly people, so that's why they couldn't come today, but I am here. I want you to say no to this proposition of this gentleman. Right now, we are trying to get water from Coachella Water Authority. We are going to be consulted with them. We got approved by the state. Our project is going to start already. We have been in this big project for a long time, and it's finally going to happen for us. We're going to have water with the city. Our water pump went off on us, and they were able to provide water for us right away, and that's what we have right now. They put meters in every property owner's property, and we've been through with the Coachella with this process for a long time, and I appreciate everything they have done for us. We did come to Indio, and they couldn't do the project because of Avenue 50 and Jackson. They said something about the street, that it was going to be too much. So they told me to go to Coachella and ask if they could do the project, if they could help us, with our situation, which they did. They did, and they have. So today we got this letter. A lot of us didn't understand it very well, but they explained it to us, and for my personal, I would like to stay as a Coachella resident, and I'm sure that most of my community property owners would feel the same way. But like I said, they couldn't come today, so I hope you take that consideration in our favor, and you say no to this. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Fernandez, for being here this evening. Ms. Hamilton, I think you're Sphere 2, the next one, because you're down on 52 and Jackson. Yeah. This is only up to 51. I'll call you up on the next one. Thank you. I have no more requests to speak, and I don't see anyone moving forward, so I'll close the public comment period. And does council have any more questions of staff? Any clarifying comments, or are we ready to deliberate? Nothing? All right, then if there be no further questions, comments, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 10419, authorizing text and map amendments to the City of Indio General Plan for Southern Sphere 1. And action 2, approving ordinance number 1805, authorizing a zoning map amendment for Southern Sphere 1.
And I'll second that motion.
I have a motion by Councilmember Furman, a second by Councilmember Holmes. Please indicate your vote electronically. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Snyder, we appreciate that you take into consideration the comments that were made tonight. And as you move through the process of the evolution of this process, that we hope that the decision that is made by the LAFCO board is in the best interest of everyone. So thank you very much for your work. Our next item is item 10.5, resolution number 10420, text amendments to Chapter 3 of the City of Indio General Plan and General Plan Map Amendment of the application of the Desert Estates transition land use designation for a territory of land identified as Southeastern Sphere 2 comprised of approximately 228 acres located at the southeast corner of Avenue 50 and Jackson Street, along with item 10.7, ordinance number 1806 for the same designated area. Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, members of City Council, very similar to the last discussion. This is an item for potential inclusion of land that is not currently sphered within the City of Indio sphere of influence. And this is an area that has had a lot of discussion around it. It's an area that you may know from the recent municipal service review. It's often been referred to as Pocket 7 or P7. This is an area that both the cities of Indio and City of Coachella have been in conversations regarding its potential inclusion in one or both spheres for at least 3.5 years. Since I've been here almost 5 years, and I know the last 3.5 years we've been talking about it. And so, again, similar to what I said before, and I'll just keep it very brief, this is a change in organization consideration. It would affect approximately 228 acres. It would seek to make amendments to the general plan, both text and map amendments. The map amendment would be to designate it as what we call DET, Desert Estates Transition. And it would, the zoning would be, a concurrent action for change in zoning would be for DET3, Desert Estates Transition, 0 to 3 dwelling units to the acre. Again, as I said before, the Riverside LAFCO board will ultimately consider the city's request, and they will take action as needed. And ultimately, the determination of whether or not these properties get included within the City of Indio sphere, the City of Coachella sphere, because they have a companion application for this area, or some combination thereof, will be at the determination of that body. So this evening, you're taking actions that are precursors to a potential application to Riverside LAFCO for their consideration. Again, this map shows you the area. It's approximately 228 acres. It is bounded by Avenue 52 on the south, by Jackson Street on the west, by Calhoun on the east, and it's a little bit south of Avenue 50, a little bit south of the area we just discussed. So again, we're seeking a general plan amendment to establish a general plan land use designation of Desert Estates Transition for this area, and also a zoning designation of Desert Estates Transition 3, which again, 0 to 3 dwelling units per acre. We have attempted to be very cognizant and considerate towards the existing land use patterns in this area. We are also very aware that there are a number of ranchitos that operate in the area that host events. We have put proposed language into the general plan that would support both passive and active recreational and entertainment uses in that area, and that would be followed up in the near future by proposed zoning regulations for the council to consider that would support that both within this area, ultimately if it was brought into the city, as well as other parts of the city. So this area is a little bit different, and I do think it's important to remind the council and members of the public that there has been a lot of conversation, as I said, about this area. In fact, at the end of the last municipal services review, the Riverside LAFCO Commission told the cities of Indio and Coachella to go work together on this area. And to be honest, we did. We reached out to our compatriots in the city of Coachella. We had some conversations. And then at a certain point, we were told that they were no longer interested in talking to us. And so those conversations had gone on a variety of different angles. But the point is that we acted in good faith at the direction of the LAFCO Commission to try to work together with our compatriots and counterparts in the city of Coachella. And unfortunately, that did not go down the path that we hoped it would. So we are here before you with an independent action for your consideration. For the very same reasons I mentioned earlier, the proximity of the public safety complex, the availability of services, harmonious land use patterns. The city of Indio incorporated area is immediately west of this area, and we believe that our rules and regulations would be appropriate for this area and would also create harmonious and consistent land use patterns. All this is documented in the staff report and in the resolution. And again, similar to the conversation before, we did do a CEQA process on this. We did do the addendum. With all due respect to the earlier comments received, we feel very confident that that was the appropriate environmental process. And so we did go through that addendum process. We did analyze the environmental impacts, and we did determine that holistically there was limited to no significant environmental impacts resulting from this action. I want to remind the council, members of the public again, that this is for proposed inclusion in the city's sphere of influence. It is not annexation. This area, if it was ultimately incorporated in the city's sphere of influence, would still be under the rules and regulations of Riverside County. This would simply set a potential consideration down the road for annexation of this area into the city of Indio, but it does not automatically cause annexation. And I just think it's important to reiterate that for the record. Again, we went through the CEQA process. We made the determinations I already talked about, and your Planning Commission did look at this on January 10th and did make a recommendation on a 4-1 motion that you consider adopting resolutions and ordinances supporting both the general plan text and map amendments, as well as the zoning map amendment for Southeastern Sphere 1. So with that, staff is recommending approval of both Resolution 10420 and ordinance number 1806 that would do the actions I just described for Southeastern Sphere 1. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the council might have. Thank you.
Southern Sphere 2. Do we have any questions of Mr. Schneider?
Yes. I have one question. I should ask for the last item. Was there any outreach done to the community? Because I think the mayor mentioned that we want to be working with the community. So what kind of outreach did we do for this area?
So we did have a community meeting on November 28th. We did send out invitations to property owners within the area, and we had approximately 11 individuals attend that meeting, and we spoke with them. The city manager and I attended that meeting, and we spoke with them for approximately an hour and a half, answered their questions, and talked about the proposal for inclusion, and also talked about how the city would strive to make sure that that the lifestyle that many of them enjoy, appreciate, would not be impacted by this.
Appreciate it. That's it, Mayor.
There'll be no further questions of staff. We will open the public hearing. I do have a request to speak on 10.5 and 10.7, again by Ms. Amy Hoyt. Do you have something additional to add other than the letter that we have? No, I'd like to incorporate my comments on all 4 items.
Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here this evening. We also have a request to speak by Ms. Jennifer Hamilton. Welcome.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Jennifer Hamilton, and my husband and I own the Grandpa Pet Resort. And we've been there for 20 years, bought the property even longer before that. And I just wanted to share with you our perspective, because we've had these meetings. You know, I know you said you were here for 5 years or maybe 7 years. Well, we've been dealing with this for over 20 years. And it feels like we keep getting asked to the dance, but we never get anything after that. So when we bought our property, we had La Quinta and Indio and Coachella all fighting to become a sphere of influence and then to ultimately annex us. And different offers were being made and things being encouraged, and it was all very exciting. And then everybody lost interest, and nobody really paid attention to our area for a considerable amount of time. And now kind of the whole process is happening again, where there's a lot of interest, and I've talked to a number of the homeowners, and there's a number of them that feel there's some real advantage in coming into Indio, and there's some, and others feel the advantage is going into Coachella. But one thing we all agree on is, I shouldn't say all, but nearly everyone I've spoken to, is that we really want to get out of the county. We want to be a part of a city. We want the city resources. We want it to become easier to get business done. We want easier to get permitting done. It was really, really challenging going through the county. We spent 2 years and $250,000 in our little business just to get approved through the county, and we really want to work with our cities. And so I would just ask that if you move forward with the sphere of influence, or Coachella moves forward with the sphere of influence, whoever does, that we move towards annexation, because just kind of continuing to be in this limbo where we're part of some sphere of influence, but we still have to work with the county, really doesn't move the ball forward for us. And I think our community, especially in our business as a business owner, is we really want to move forward. And so that's what I would just encourage you to do, to take into consideration that if you want to do this, then be serious about it, and let's try to move forward as a community. Thank you.
We are serious. Our next request to speak, Ms. Maria Inzunza.
Hello. Good evening, council members.
I am Maria Insunza, and I am a resident of Indio for over 30 years. It is a pleasure to speak with you today about a topic that's important to me and our community. And I am interested in annexation, not just inclusion, because annexation. My parents bought this property in 1974. In about 1986, Mr. Palomino started a petition to annex to Indio, or like the lady before me said, nothing really happened. So it's been a long time, and something needs to happen soon. So in my property is there, and it's currently under Riverside County, and we want to make improvements, but there's always roadblocks and money involved, and it's taking too long. So this is why I think our property should be in the Indio area. Number one is closer to our Indio's public safety services. One of the best things about Indio is how well we look after each other, especially when it comes to safety. Bringing our property into the city of Indio means quicker access to these services. In times of emergency, every second counts, and being within the city's immediate response zone could be life-saving. Number two, we like to benefit from Indio's infrastructure. We all appreciate the infrastructure our city offers, from roads to utilities. By annexing our property, we can fully tap into these facilities. This move will not only benefit the land, but also support the city's strategic planning and sustainable growth. Number three, opportunities for housing development. Our property has more potential than its current zoning allows. Being part of Indio could enable us to explore building more houses per acre. This aligns with the city's growth goals and potentially offers more housing options to our community. In short, annexing our property is a step towards enhancing community safety, improving resource use, and contributing to our city's balanced growth. I urge the council to consider this proposal, not just for the benefit of a single property, but as a move towards a more cohesive and prosperous Indio. Thank you for your attention and for all you do for our city.
Thank you for being with us this evening, Ms. Insunza. I have no further requests to speak on either of these two items, and I see no one step forward, so I'll close the public hearing, public comment period. It's late. And ask if there's any further questions or clarifications from staff, or are we ready to deliberate, or a motion?
I'll make a motion. Action one, approve resolution number 10420, authorizing text and map amendments to the City of Indio General Plan for Southern Sphere 2. Action two, approve ordinance number 1806, authorizing a zoning map amendment for Southern Sphere 2.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Holmes, second by Councilmember Furman. Please indicate your vote electronically if there's no further discussion. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Moving on to item 10.8. These are not related, right? 10.8 and 10.9?
They are not related.
So I have to take them separately?
I'll defer to the city attorney. They are actions that are required by Riverside LAFCO, but perhaps he can guide us.
Council, if you wanted to take resolutions 10.417 and 10.418 together, they are related items. I would just say open the public hearing on both, receive the presentation on both, take comments on both, and act on both. Otherwise, you can do it as two separate hearings as well. It's up to you.
I'd like to combine them if that's okay. We're done. We're at the end of the agenda. Let's get them. So item 10.8, resolution number 10.417, request of the Riverside Local Agency Formation Commission to take proceedings for the change in organization for a certain territory of land referred to as the Southeastern Sphere 1, comprised of approximately 36 acres located at the southeast corner of Avenue 50 and Jackson, and also Southeastern Sphere 2, comprised of approximately 228 acres located east of Jackson Street, west of Calhoun, north of Avenue 52, and south of Avenue 50, known as Resolution Number 10418. Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Council. Based on your previous actions on the earlier agenda items, it is appropriate now for you to consider taking formal action. The request to take proceedings is a requirement of the Riverside LAFCO. They ask that the council pass resolutions, and the resolutions you might know are a little bit different than your normal resolutions because we had to follow their format. But these are necessary resolutions indicating your formal request as the governing body of the City of Indio to the Riverside LAFCO to take formal proceedings for the requested considerations for both Southeastern Sphere 1 and Southeastern Sphere 2. Again, this would establish their inclusion within the city's sphere of influence. It would also identify the general plan and pre-zoning for the affected properties. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions. I did not have a formal presentation beyond that. However, obviously, based on the earlier conversations and discussions, you know the areas that we're talking about. But happy to answer any questions the council might have.
Do we have any questions of staff? No. Hearing none, I'll comment period. I have a request to speak on item 10.7 and 10.8 from Ms. Amy Hoyt.
Thank you. Again, I would incorporate my comments from 10.4 and 10.6, I believe it was, and a comment letter.
Thank you for being here. I have no further requests to speak. If anyone would like to speak, now is your opportunity. Seeing none, I will close the public comment period and ask my colleagues how they wish to proceed.
We could get it up there.
They don't have a cue card.
I sincerely apologize for not having the cue cards. However, I think the council, with support from the city attorney, could simply pass a motion to approve resolution number 10417 and resolution number 10418. I don't know that I'll defer to the city attorney if any additional text is required.
Number, I think that's sufficient, Mayor.
I will make that motion.
No, second.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Miller and a second by Councilmember Furman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please indicate your vote electronically. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Thank you, staff. Thank you, everyone who attended tonight. We appreciate the comments that were made both for and against these last items. It's important for us to hear both sides. I want to thank everyone for being here. Our next, we have a public comments for items not on the agenda. If anyone, Senor?
There is also one public comment from Manuel Villanueva, if you'd like to take that one after.
Do we have a form or?
This gentleman.
Oh, Senor Villanueva, go ahead.
I'd like to know if you're going to knock my apartment down. It's the one on the new building they built next to the college. It's College of the Desert. It's a new building. There's 4 apartments across the street on the west side. I'd like to know if they're going to knock those down. If they are, am I going to be relocated?
So we don't have any comments on your property. If you want to speak with, actually, Mr. Snyder, I think you can handle that, can't you? Or Mr. Montgomery?
Yes, it would be best to speak with the College of the Desert about any plans there. I'm not personally aware of any plans to knock down any buildings in that location, and I believe the projects that you see underway are exactly the projects they plan. But be happy to get you a contact. We can call maybe together to just confirm that with the College of the Desert.
Mr. Mesa.
Gentlemen, good night. How everybody doing? I just have 2 questions. You know, we had 2 accidents, Chief, right in the corner, Motel 6 and Dino gas station, and the last month and a half. One of it was a death. Okay. You know, it's funny. I've been going through Indio Boulevard back and forth, and just last night, just lucky, this lady with black clothes, no light in the street, half of the lights or about 55% of the lights was out in Indio Boulevard in the last month, okay? You got an attorney right next to your side. This lady come across from my property right in King Street, right where the Calde used to be, with a dark thing. I miss her for about that much. And you know, he's one of the homeless, and I happen to have the problem that I got on the property right next to the railroad. You see all the trash. Then you guys close the park. Seem like all the homeless moved to the railroad property right in back our thing. My fence, my chain link fence, got more holes now than fence. How did they cut the goddamn fence? Sorry, or I don't know. I keep fixing the fence, and they keep making holes in the fence. You know, it just point my wife was about checking for about half an hour when we met the lady. She didn't seem to care. Seriously, she didn't seem to care. So actually, who is in charge of the lights in Indio Boulevard and why we have so many lights out in Indio Boulevard? It just was the question and whatever we can do, because it's really dangerous, and we're gonna have a lawsuit because right in front of Indio, Motel 6, the lights are right in top of right in front of the gas station. You can see that the lights are completely out there. So you know, it's a liability for other taxpayers, but like the city manager say, we pay little bit for every time they sue us, so don't sue us, Mr. Mesa, right? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mesa, for being here with us this evening. Item number 12, adjourn. Our next City Council IWA meeting is February 7th. Thank you, everyone, and good night.